All right, so I think we'll get started. I know some people might be still filtering in, but it's a minute past and I want to make the most of the time. So I want to say first, welcome to everyone and thanks for joining us. This is the second installment of our Tradable Bits webinar series, and we're very excited to have you tuning in. At this time, we think it's extra important to connect with those across our industry in entertainment and sports to share key insights and help those looking to adapt to what we know is a very rapidly shifting world, both online and offline. So before we get started, I'm Selena. I lead the paid digital side here at Tradable Bits, and I'll be your host this morning. I want to take a moment to introduce you to our amazing panel of speakers lined up for today, starting with Liza Haddad. Liza is on the business development and creative partnerships team at Spotify. She manages global creative partnerships for over 50 brands across multiple industries. So we're really excited to have her on today. Then we'll hear from two of our partners in both the sports and entertainment world. Jamie Louden is the digital marketing manager with the Pittsburgh Penguins, and Laura Hymes is the director of marketing at the Governor's Ball Music Festival. So both of them will be diving into some great insights around their Spotify engagement and marketing campaigns today. Some of the things that they've run in the past and some of the things that they're planning on doing in the future. So our agenda for today is we'll let Liza run through some of the trends in fan behavior happening on Spotify right now, including usage trends, topical shifts in fan interests, and more. Then we'll pass it over to Jamie to discuss her case studies. I'll follow up by giving a bit of behind the scenes info on how Spotify Social Auth works with Tradable Bits engagement campaigns, before we finish up by talking to Laura about what GovBall has been doing with Spotify and some of the changes in strategy they're implementing right now. We will do our utmost to finish up at the 1 hour mark. And like I said previously, if you have any questions for the panelists today, feel free to write your questions in the chat, which should be to the right of your screen, and we will address as many questions as we can at the end. This webinar is being recorded, and it will be available for anyone who wants to access that recording. So please do opt in if that's something that you're interested in. Before I throw it over to Liza, we would love to know, sort of our first poll question for the audience, whether your brand or your organization has done anything on Spotify yet. So if you can take a moment to answer, that would be super helpful. All answers are anonymous, so don't worry about that. And yeah, we welcome any degree of experience with using Spotify for advertising or brand marketing, anything like that. Cool, so it looks like we have a really great mix of people who have never used Spotify for brand engagement or activations. Some people have official branded profiles. That's really great to see. 15% are power users. And 15% have used it only as an advertising channel. So that's a really great mix. And actually 43%, now that some people have come in, have never used it for brand marketing. So that's really good info to know for us as we go. And just if you're interested, I've shared the results. You can see kind of the mix that we have on the webinar today. So with all that being said, I am going to pass it over to Liza. Go ahead and take it away. We're really excited to hear from you.
Hi everyone, and thanks Selena. And thanks everyone for taking the time to hear about our users are engaging with Spotify and listening on our platform during these unprecedented times. My name is Liza Haddad, and I'm the Creative Partnerships Manager here at Spotify's Advertising Business Unit. With social and physical distancing orders in place around the world, industries have obviously been affected, with less people spending time at work, spending less time shopping, and spending less time outdoors overall. We know most people are spending their times indoors and at home, and with that, we have seen an uptick in our listenership on our platform as users reshift their online behavior. We've seen a 31% increase in our monthly active users year over year. Next slide. As you see on this slide, people are spending more time looking for news updates. They're listening to more music, more podcasts, watching shows and videos, and browsing through their mobile devices. And while we know more people are listening to music, it's interesting where and how they're listening. And now that users are spending more time at home, more are streaming through their smart speakers, through their smart TVs, on their desktop, and connected gaming consoles, rather than in the car or exclusively through their mobile devices. Next slide. In a survey conducted on April 8th in partnership with Qualtrics, we talked to 1,500 Spotify users across the US to get more information as to how their behaviors have changed during COVID-19. And we found that more people are listening in groups of 4 or more, and they're listening for a lot longer than they used to. 47% of our respondents said that they're listening more in groups, and they said that they're listening upwards 5 hours a day. One of our respondents even said, "My wife and I typically listen a few times per week. However, we listen almost 5 days a week now as a result of COVID-19 stay-at-home requirements." 41% of our respondents said that they're listening to Spotify more now than they did before. And while audio is enhancing indoor moments, it's bringing people together and helping them cope with what's happening in the world around them. Listeners are disconnecting from their screens to connect with their loved ones, and streaming audio really has become the perfect way to do that. 69% of our audience said that music is bringing their family together. And now that we see that more people are listening in groups, it's interesting to see how their listening environment has evolved as well. Here on this slide, we see that while listening starts on the mobile device, it quickly becomes a remote to enable group listening environments. And that listening is then powered by those connected devices I mentioned earlier. And the mobile device becomes the remote to enable group listening sessions on your connected TVs, smart speakers, and gaming consoles. But not only is the platform in which they're listening to changing, the channels that they're engaging with are also changing. And less of the respondents were listening to traditional radio channels, and interestingly enough, they're listening less to radio and opting for more traditional news channels to stay up to date with everything around them. Only 7% of our respondents said that they were listening to less audio streaming wise, and 35% of them said that they were listening to less radio. Spotify's advertising opportunities include a wide variety of ad products. It includes audio, video, and display units to help you reach your audience. So whether they're actively engaging with the platform in view, you can reach them through display and video formats, or passively listening in the background through hyper-targeted audio creative. And our first-party data allows you to target listeners with ads at the right place and the right time. Listener moments are incredibly important to connecting with your audience at the right place and right time. And we've heard from our respondents that they're listening more throughout the day across major key moments like cooking, baking, playing board games with their families, and exercising. And while listeners are disconnecting from their screens, podcasts have emerged as an alternative for individuals and families. On the next slide, you'll see 55% of our respondents said that podcasts were great screenless activities to connect with their families, and 45% of them said that podcasts help bring their family together, especially as they're doing other activities like arts and crafts, cooking, and baking with their family. Next slide. During these changing times, your audience's mood is key. And on the next slide, you'll see that 41% of our respondents said that for ads to resonate with them, you have to catch them at the right mood and the right moment. And as I mentioned earlier, with our first party data, we have a variety of targeting capabilities to help you reach your audience at the right key and right time. Next slide. So let's look at some creative ways as to how you can reach your audience. And look at a moment like working out. As I mentioned, we have a variety of targeting capabilities that can help you reach your audience, but a great way to think about reaching them in that right key mood or moment is potentially working with an artist or an athlete that you might have a connection with and have them curate a playlist that talks about how they're engaging with their workout moment while they're at home. And whether they're annotating that playlist with workout tips or filtering it in with music that keeps them pumped up during their quarantine, it's a great way to connect with the audience in that workout moment as they try to stay fit. On the next slide. Another great way to connect with the audience is during those sports and gaming moments. As we saw, listenership on gaming consoles has increased quite a bit. So while the audience may be playing Fortnite for 4 to 5 hours a day, a great way to reach them is with custom audio creative in the form of audio ads that can be served to them during that time of day. And those can be voiced by influencers, static voiceover actors, or athletes and artists that you may have a connection with. And as we'll hear later from Jamie and Laura, branded profiles are a great branded destination to connect with your audience and drive them to engage with content curated by your team or your event. And I'll leave you with a couple of additional ways to connect with your audience above and beyond. We do have Spotify codes that are a great offline way to connect with your audience, and Spotify codes can be generated on spotifycodes.com, where you can drop in a playlist URL of your own playlist to generate a high resolution code that can actually be scanned via the mobile device and allow users to drive directly to your branded profile or your branded playlist. And another great way to think about things is having custom audio ads developed to reach your audience. And if you have a connection with an influencer or an artist or an athlete and having them voice these audio ads for you, it's a great way to really catch the audience's attention and have them drive into your branded destination or share via social and otherwise. That's the gist of Spotify for now as to how they're listening during COVID-19. But if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. You can catch me via email, on LinkedIn, or on Twitter. And please don't hesitate to reach out. Big thank you to the Tradable Bits team for having me. And I'm excited to hear more about how the Pittsburgh Penguins and Gutball NYC have leveraged Spotify in the past.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that, Liza. All really, really useful and insightful information, and I'm sure interesting and helpful for any marketers and strategists listening in. On the note of podcast listening being on the rise, we just wanted to highlight that some of our partners have their own podcasts. So if you are interested, please do check these out. I'm sure they would love for you to tune in. Yeah, we just wanted to shout out our partners who have their ongoing podcasts running on Spotify. On that note, before we introduce our next speaker, before we move on to Jamie, I just wanted to ask you guys, let me just get up this poll here. I wanted to ask you guys about your Spotify listening behavior. So what's your favorite mood podcast or mood playlist at the moment? So let me just launch this poll. All right, so we've got some of the most popular playlists on here. So if you guys are listening to any of these, please do let us know. If your favorite playlist is not in this list, then we would love to hear what it is in the chat. So do feel free to leave your favorite Spotify mood playlist in the chat, and people can go and check it out. Wow, we've got lots of people listening to lo-fi beats. And mood booster. So 31% are listening to lo-fi beats, and 31% are listening to mood booster. These are clear winners. Also, work it out is pretty high up there. So people working out from home. That's really, really awesome to know. Great. So now that we've talked a little bit about how listening behavior is changing on Spotify due to COVID, I want to move on and introduce Jamie. Thanks again for joining us. It's really great to have you on the panel. And before we jump into the nitty-gritty of what you've been doing on Spotify out of interest, do you have a favorite Spotify playlist at the moment? What are you listening to?
Yeah, I was going to say a shout out to my lo-fi beats listeners. I'm also on that train.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm a big fan, so I'm with you there. So the Pittsburgh Penguins have been doing a number of engagement activations on Spotify, including launching these custom playlists. So can you tell us a little bit about what the inspiration was behind creating these player and warm-up playlists on Spotify?
Yeah, so we know our fans like knowing that behind the scenes type of stuff about our players. So what are they eating? What are they binge watching? What are they listening to? So the transition into Spotify felt kind of an easy way to connect our fans in a new way. Shout out to our social media team because they actually had a great idea on Creative Day. So all of our guys are in the same place. They're getting their league headshots done. They're doing interviews, etc. So outside of the new media room, they had a giant iPhone, like not like an iPad size iPhone, like the size of a person. And the guys could go and scroll through and actually add the songs to the playlist itself. So it felt more personal that way.
Very, very cool. Yeah, I love that the picks on the playlist actually came from the players. That's really, really awesome. And did you notice anything interesting about your fans' engagement with the playlists? Either an uptick in engagement or any feedback you got?
Yeah, we thought it was pretty well received. The one feedback we were getting that fans were interested in which song was connected to which player. So who added what? Just because our players listen to like a hodgepodge of music, it's literally like one end of the spectrum at like electronic and rap and pop to like oldies and country in the middle. So I think they were interested to know who added what.
Very cool. And finally, on the player playlist and custom playlist side, would you do anything differently when running this in the future? And that could be based on, learnings from these playlists that you guys have already run, or what we've just heard from Spotify. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I talked with my social team, and they said that we just want to have more consistency on the platform. So we don't have as much access to the guys as we'd like. But with what our feedback was from the player playlist, like our fans want to know individually what players are listening to. So what's Chris Letang listening to? What's Brian Dumoulin listening to? So I think moving forward, we'd like to do individual player playlists instead of this one big one.
Very cool. Really interesting idea. So I know you're also a key strategist when it comes to the digital marketing side on Spotify. That's kind of your wheelhouse. So as a sports brand, can you talk a little bit about what inspired you to try Spotify ads in the first place, and how you kind of ensure that your Spotify ads are both relevant and impactful for your key audiences? You obviously have been doing this for a little while, and so it might be intuitive, but it's not necessarily that intuitive for people to connect Spotify with sports brands. So I'd love to know kind of how you went about your Spotify ads in the realm of sports.
Yeah, for sure. So I knew we wanted to do something new and different. So we were placing a lot of traditional media buys like print and radio. And I kind of like sat down and thought to myself, like, who even listens to radio anymore? Like, unless you're in the car with your parents, like, are you actually listening to the radio? So if we wanted to reach that younger audience, we had to think outside. So Spotify seemed like a no-brainer from there. But I knew that traditional tickets weren't going to be the right fit for the platform. So how it connects to the brand and how it's staying relevant for a sports brand is like finding the right fit for the platform. So I knew that Student Rush didn't have a click-through action, which is what you're not going to get on Spotify, right? So the call to action for Student Rush is actually a text action. So you can see on like the visual, it's text rush to 32623. So because that was a separate action and they didn't have to click through on what they were hearing, I was like, okay, that makes sense. From there, I had our creative team make like a very custom ad for it. As you can see, like our logo right there, the call to like action, very clear. And then I targeted all the local colleges in the area. So we're lucky enough to have like 6 colleges in Pittsburgh alone. And then outside of that, it's like 5 or 6 more. So I targeted the colleges. And then from there, I was like, okay, how are we going to do the music itself? So I picked 3, like the most popular genres from what like myself as a millennial would listen to. So like pop, electronic, and rap, right? So I ran that for 2 weeks. And after the 2 weeks, I looked at what was performing best. And I saw that everyone who was listening to rap like wasn't interested in hockey tickets. So I was just wasting my budget in that category. So from there, I took it, I split it down the middle and did just pop and electronic. And after I did that, I actually got more reach in just one of those genres than all 3 combined the first time, which led to the uptick in subscriptions, which is what that Student Rush is.
Very, very cool. I love that you sort of found a way around Spotify not necessarily being a medium that's best used when you're trying to get click-through conversions, finding a way to still get people to click on something, but not necessarily the ad in app. Because as we know, a lot of people listen to Spotify on through headphones or in the car, and are not necessarily going to click the ad as they hear it. So I really think that that's really useful insight. And then just as a final follow-up on that, because Spotify, like I said, is not necessarily a driver of click-through conversions, but we've seen it be really, really useful for awareness. How did you see Spotify fitting into and contributing to your sort of larger marketing strategy?
So I think at the Penguins, we're always looking for like new ways to do things, new ways to target like ticket buying, etc. So when it came to Spotify, I actually saw it as like a tool I could use to reach a certain demo that we weren't getting with regular media buys, right? So the elusive Gen like Z, if you will, how are we going to get them to sports games? Well, they're students right now, right? So what are they listening to? It's not going to be the radio. They're not looking at a newspaper. So I felt like it was more of a tool for us to add to our marketing initiatives.
Really, really awesome. Well, thanks, Jamie, so much again for hopping on.
Thank you.
And weighing in. So we've talked a little bit about our first case study, and we've talked broadly about Spotify activations. So I just wanted to sort of introduce some concepts tied to Tradable Bits before we jump in with Laura to talk about what GovBall has done on the platform. So when a fan authorizes with Spotify in order to enter a contest or generate a personalized playlist, we're able to collect their listening behavior on Spotify. And based on their listening behavior, we assign them affinity for specific artists, or in some cases, specific brands. And affinity can come from a number of different sources. So it can come from ticket sales, it can come from Facebook interests in some cases. However, key point is that we've found that Spotify listening behavior is one of the best markers of current affinity. So what people are listening to and what artists they like right now. We can then use this data to create hyper-targeted segments for marketing campaigns, which we'll talk a little bit more about with Laura, as well as to just communicate with fans more effectively using content that they actually enjoy. So that brings us to our last poll question, which is, how often do you currently use Tradable Bits for engagement campaigns? And that could be with Spotify off, it could just be in general. We also would love to hear from people who are not familiar with Tradable Bits at all, so newbies are welcome. Yeah, we're just looking to get a sense of how familiar you are with that aspect of the platform, and if you've run Spotify engagement campaigns not on Tradable Bits, that's also awesome, and we'd love to hear from you in the chat. Great, so it looks like we have a lot of newbies. That's really, really cool to see. So 55% of those who answered the poll are new and have never run anything through us. And then we also have a couple daily and weekly users. So that's really, really awesome. And thanks again to everyone for participating. Now, Laura, you are no stranger to the concept of fan affinity and affinity data. And I know GovBall has run both engagement activations and ads on Spotify in the past couple months. So thanks so much for hopping on. We're really, really excited to have you. So starting with the lineup predictor campaign, what was the inspiration behind creating this? I know we kind of came to you and pitched a bunch of ideas. What was the deciding factor for you guys landing on this activation?
So I guess a couple things. First of all, we've always wanted to do like campaigns like this, and we never really had like an avenue to do that until we started working with you guys. And one of the reasons we did start working with you guys is because you have these engagement campaigns. That's obviously fun for the fans, but we're also obviously able to get data from it, which is a win-win situation. So this year, we had a month-long pre-sale in December, which is like the longest pre-sale we've ever had. So we needed to keep fans engaged throughout that entire time. You know, obviously we're doing stuff on socials, but something like this kind of breaks up all of the, you know, like buy pre-sale tickets now language with something that's kind of more engaging. And I guess also the timing works well because you can't do a lineup predictor ad if the lineup's already out. And so in December, during our pre-sale, we have a blind pre-sale, so the lineup's not out. People are just buying, you know, tickets because they want to come to GovBall and it's the cheapest price. So the timing works well. We also, you know, that month is really important to get as many fans as we can into the database so that we're able to figure out these affinities, so we can get our, you know, targeted groups ready for when announce does happen in beginning of January. Yeah.
Very cool. And then sort of on a related note, did you notice anything about how the activation impacted fan engagement? Did you get any feedback from fans on their experience using or entering and engaging with this lineup predictor?
Yeah, so I think this was the first campaign we ran with you guys. So I think it went well, but I think what we've learned by doing some other campaigns along the way is that we get more entries when there is like a prize attached. It's more of like a contest. So, you know, in the future, we might say, you know, predict the 2020 lineup and win tickets to 2020. Something like that, because the more entries we get, obviously the more data we get, and that's the goal. So yeah, and then in terms of, you know, the feedback, I think it kind of just like confirms the fan interest. All of those artists that are here, some of them ended up being on our lineup in January. So, you know, I'm able to know that people are going to be excited if I do a post about Tame Impala or a post about Vampire Weekend, because they were on the lineup. But also, even if they're not on the lineup but have played GovBall before, like Billy or Brockhampton or honestly a lot of these artists, if I do a TBT post. I know that, people are going to be excited to see a Billie Eilish clip or a Billie Eilish picture from when she played in 2018. So it kind of helps me just with social content as well.
Yeah, definitely. And you kind of touched on this a little bit, but in what other ways did you look to activate this data in later campaigns or promotions? What kind of things were you able to do with it?
Yeah, so this pre-period, like I said, is really important to get as much affinity data as we can before the lineup starts, because obviously when the lineup comes out, we want to target everyone who's fans of people that are on the lineup. But also, in February, when we're just doing like a artist carousel, any type of ad really that's like targeted to a certain group. If it's like a rap genre ad, I can target people who hear, someone who is a fan of Tyler, the Creator, and The Weeknd and Kanye West, and target them for like the Sunday of Gubball this year, which was a rap heavy day. So, and again, I guess with socials too, it kind of helps me plan out like who people will be excited to see throwback posts of, or just like posts for this current year. It really just helps fine tune our targeting once the lineup comes out, to help hyper target for those artist carousels and by day ads and whatnot.
Yeah, definitely. And I know we did quite a bit of segmenting along those lines.
We did. Good times.
So Gumbo also ran a personalized playlist activation, which allows fans to auth with Spotify and generate a playlist from the festival lineup based on their interests. So can you tell us about what you were looking to discover about your fans with this campaign, and kind of relatedly, how you settled on running a personalized playlist?
Yes. I'll answer why first. So I've kind of like what Jamie was saying when she's like, I'm a millennial, so I think about like what I would be doing. I also happen to be the demo of, the Gubball demo, which is really nice. And so, when I go to a concert or when I go to a festival, I always make a playlist beforehand so I can like know all the artists or learn about new music or learn all the lyrics before I go to the event. And so it's honestly like a benefit to the fan because it makes the playlist for you and it's hyper personalized, and you don't have to like sit there and like research yourself. It literally does it automatically. So that's kind of why we wanted to do it. I think it's honestly a benefit and we get data from it, which again is great. For the information we're trying to get, kind of like what I was saying about the lineup predictor as well, is like we're trying to get as much affinity data as we can to help, our targeting efforts. Mm-hmm. So for example, here, actually the personalized playlist, I think we came out with that a few days before our by day lineup was announced. So it kind of helped, get again as much data as we can so that when the by day lineup comes out, we can start targeting for Friday ads specifically, Saturday, Sunday. Tame Impala and Miley are high on this like idol list, and both of them were playing the Friday of our festival this year. So being able to use those fans and lookalikes of those fans to target for Friday specifically is great. And then even if certain idols aren't like on our lineup, we can still use like similar artists. So for like Chance the Rapper and Childish Gambino, who are rappers, we could use those fans and lookalikes of those fans to target for the Sunday of our festival this year, which was rap heavy. Or even if you do like a artist carousel of all the rappers from Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, you can target people who like rap. Yeah.
So lastly, moving along here, it wouldn't really be a webinar at this time if I didn't ask this question. So have the events around COVID changed the way that you are going about approaching fan activation? I know a lot of brands are having to shift a lot of what they do right now. And tied to that, do you think that some of those changes at least will be permanent even after this sort of crisis dissipates?
Yeah, so things are definitely changing. As it's kind of crazy out there, and especially for live music. Everyone's kind of trying to move things to digital and virtual events. And it's not even just like the Instagram lives that people were doing a few weeks ago. Like now there's like massive, live stream productions happening. And so we're talking a lot, with sponsors and just internally about things we can do. I think these fan engagement campaigns work the best as like in addition to those larger initiatives. So for example, we were talking with a sponsor about doing like a Women of Govball series or like weekend live event with, live performances, or also using like archival footage. And we thought that we could do a personalized playlist as a part of that. So basically like there'd be a personalized playlist that makes you, obviously a personalized playlist of all of your, all the artists from Govball, the women artists that you might like be interested in. So doing something like that, helps us get data, which we might not necessarily get like in a live stream. It helps us get more media engagements, which we can send back to our sponsor to say, hey, here we got, X amount of engagements throughout the entire weekend. And obviously that helps sell for like more sponsorships as well. And then it's just like another way for people to be involved digitally when we can't actually meet up in person, trying to do as many things as we can online. And I do think it's going to at least happen for live music. I think this will be continuing for a while until we can actually sell hard tickets again. And this data that we get from these types of engagements, even during this time, will help when we do have to sell for a live event. The targeting we can use this information and these affinities that we get to make groups later on for whatever event we may have down the line.
It's interesting. I think as more and more people work their way around doing live streams, it'll be interesting to see how those things persist and end up being part of the larger strategy, even when live events come back. So that's really interesting. And just really quickly, I want to hit on Spotify ads, because we did run some with you for GovBall this past year. And you're a big part of the ad strategy for GovBall. So can you just note really quickly what kind of targeting capabilities Spotify provided for GovBall that were maybe unique in comparison to other networks?
Yeah, so as you know, and we talked about, you can't get that much data back from Spotify. So for us, it's definitely an awareness play. For all of our ads that we do, we want to be super relevant and we want to be like where our customers are. And our customers are music lovers, and music lovers are listening to Spotify. So it's very important for us to be there. In terms of relevance, you can be super relevant, which is great. So like, Miley was on the festival this year. If someone's listening to a Miley playlist and they hear an ad saying Miley Cyrus is playing in the city near you at this day, it's like as targeted as one can get, which is great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's really, really awesome information. Hopefully it was helpful for attendees listening in as well. So thanks, Laura, so much for joining us. I also want to thank all the panelists once more for sharing their insights and being so generous with their time. We've got about, we're good for time. So we're going to open it up to questions that arose during the presentation now. So I'm going to take a look and see what questions we have here. So we've got a question for Jamie and Laura. When working with execs, how do you make the case to them to invest money in a platform like Spotify versus other traditional channels like radio and TV, which they're so used to using?
I think for us, like I was saying, it really makes sense because our customers are listening to music and they're listening to Spotify. We also do traditional, media as well, but Spotify just fits into the rest of our marketing play. We need to hit people on multiple touch points, especially in New York when there's so many events going on. We need to continue to be like top of mind. So we, not only have like email marketing and social media and, outdoor marketing. Spotify is just like another one of the tools that we use to hit people and stay top of mind.
I think for me, it's obviously always a thing for execs in sports. At least it's like hard to like get them to break away from what they know, right? So they're comfortable placing traditional media buys. But it is my responsibility as a digital marketer to like present my case. And I think that's what I did with Spotify. I was like, look, this is the demographic it's going to reach. This is what we can do with, if not the same budget or less budget than what we're doing with the other like platforms. And this is like what it can yield. And then I'm lucky enough that my VP like will let me test these things out, but then it's on me to put my money where my mouth is, right? So I come back to them and I'm like, hey, I got 1,300 new subscriptions to Student Rush in a month. And like, we're not seeing that when we're doing email marketing or radio buys or print. So clearly this is working. It's getting them to, I say it's like presenting your case, getting them to buy into that like first thing, and then showing them the results, because if you're doing it correctly, you should get the right results.
Yeah, really good points. Next question is for Liza. What audio ads tend to do the best from what you've seen brands do in the sports or music space? Some insider tips, I think, is what this person is looking for.
Yeah, I would definitely say that more awareness type audio ads are the best way to connect with the audience. Again, as Jamie mentioned earlier, like it's difficult to get people to click through and like take an action, especially when they're listening passively on Spotify. So they have it on in the background. So we've seen the best success is like through awareness campaigns, just to let them know if like an upcoming show is happening, that tickets are now available, and also just constantly doing creative refreshes we find is really best suited. Another thing that I would say is we've seen a lot of success with customized audio ads that are meant for the Spotify platform. So what I mean there is traditional radio spots are developed in a way and created in a way where it's a one-to-many message. But the great thing about digital streaming is that you can really layer on these targeting capabilities that we have and a lot of digital areas have, is creating customized messages. So you could really create a custom message to catch a user in a mood or moment. So think about, in a gaming environment, if somebody is listening through PlayStation while they're playing, knowing that they're in that mood or moment and having the script like read and like touch on that is very successful of what we've seen.
Yeah, very interesting insights there. And I love what you said about the difference between a one-to-many message and something that's much more personalized. This question is also for Liza. Do you have anything new for marketers coming up in your product development timeline that may be interesting? What's new on the way? And I know some of this you can't share, but whatever you can.
Our product teams are always innovating and finding new and exciting ways to engage with our audience. So we do have quite a bit that's on the roadmap coming soon, but one thing that I am excited to share is that we are looking at integrating video within our automated buying platforms. So hopefully we can have that integrated through Tradable Bits very soon, but video is coming through our automated buying channels, as well as looking at adding some additional targeting capabilities to really help create those customized messages.
Very cool.
More to come.
I see another question coming in here. So this question is for Jamie and Laura. What are you doing now while events are on hold to prepare for our new normal? And this could be around your fan engagement more specifically.
Yeah, I think for us, I kind of touched on this, we're, looking to do a lot of things virtually and digitally. And it is definitely different because we usually do live events. So it's just doing live in a very different way. But people want live music right now and they want to be listening, they want to be viewing in and like still feel like they're like not at a festival, but like a community situation. So trying to bring that to as many people as we can in different ways. It's kind of just like a lot of brainstorming, a lot of talking to sponsors. We have a live stream on Sunday actually with the Surf Lodge and Bumble. And we just have a few artists that are playing for a few hours live. But just doing like things like that throughout the summer, and maybe even longer, depending on what we don't really even know. That's kind of, I think, our new normal for live music, at least during the next couple months.
Yeah, Jamie, did you want to weigh in?
Yeah, I think that's a bit of a hard question to answer because, you know, like Laura, we don't have events really that we know of. So hockey is still kind of on pause and we're not sure what's happening with the season. So I can't, you know, do engaging ads for tickets when there's not going to be tickets, right? So I think in the meantime, we've been planning on like, how can we engage fans at home on their devices, through social, through our app, like using those type of things. We're doing unpartnered things, new things that we just completely thought up off the top of our heads. It's been a lot of ideation. But we overall are always trying to reach the same goal, which is make our fans engage with us, make them feel like they're a part of the Penguins, right? So, and then on top of that, it's like we're also trying to plan for if hockey does come back without fans. So how can we make the arena feel like there's fans in there? How can we make the fans feel like they're at a live sporting event without actually being there? So
yeah. I think if anything, what this situation has highlighted is how hungry people are for that experience, no matter what form it comes in. So yeah, that's really helpful, I'm sure, for everyone listening in as well. This question is for Laura. How might you use the info gathered in your lineup predictor early on to influence your actual lineup? Would you consider letting fans decide your future lineups?
Good question. So our talent booker definitely, you know, has complete control over who's on our lineup. I do think, and he asks us, and we always look to our, you know, our surveys at the end of the year when people are like, we want to see this person in 2021, I guess this year. We always send him that information so he knows where like interests lie. But obviously he has the last say. But something like this, if we did do it like over the summer before maybe the full lineup has been, you know, finalized, he could use certain information gathered there to like book last spots or something. But you know, he's already booking now for like 2021. Things happen very far in advance for us, but it's definitely something that I send to him just so he knows like people are interested in this. Even for like these small events that we're doing, I could be like, people are definitely going to be interested if we have Billie performing because people love her and she was like the #1 idol on one of our on the lineup predictor. So stuff like that also is helpful for these summer shows that we might be putting on.
Yeah, definitely. So this is the last question, I believe, and it's for everyone. Any advice for someone in the audience who hasn't yet dove into the world of Spotify? Where do you recommend they should start? And I guess maybe Liza can start it off naturally, and then anyone else who wants to weigh in.
Yeah, I'd say to start, if you're not familiar with Spotify, definitely sign up for a free account. I think that's one thing that differentiates Spotify from a lot of other streaming partners there is that free tier that you can engage with all of the content on there. And I would really say start playing around and curating your own playlists, really get a sense of what type of listener you are. Are you more of a leaned in type of streamer where you like curating your own playlists, or do you prefer to have pre-curated playlists? And then second to that, I would say pay attention to the ads. I think there's a lot to learn as to what type of brands are leveraging different ad units and how their messages land and don't land with an audience. So there's definitely a lot to learn from the ads that are on the platform. And I guess I would leave you with check out our podcasts. There's a lot of great content on there. We actually announced yesterday that come 2021, Joe Rogan's podcast will be exclusive to Spotify. So we are investing heavily in the podcast space. And there's so much content on there, and it's really just finding out what works for you. And you'll discover a lot of amazing branded profiles and understand how brands are leveraging music to connect with their audience. And yeah.
Would you say that branded profiles are kind of the lowest touch point for brands when they get started on Spotify? What do you think?
Yeah, I would say it's the easiest way to really like have a presence on Spotify. It's such a low lift and like super easy way to connect with your fans and bring them in from other channels. So whether you're sharing that across your social channels or if you have content, blog posts or whatever it may be, it's such an easy way to bring people back. And I think music really is like, it's a connection. Everybody loves to listen to music. Everybody has their own sound and has their own vibe. And it makes it less of a brand and like more of a personal thing. And especially when you sprinkle in some of their like idols or people that they really, really follow and they really connect with.
Yeah, definitely. Did Jamie or Laura, did you want to weigh in on this, where to get started with Spotify?
Yeah, I think for us, before we even did like Spotify ads or these campaigns with you guys, we just had an account and we would make playlists, whether it be like a Women of Gubball playlist or, you know, all artists from Gubball 2019 or whatever it is, or New York specific artists, stuff like that, and share it on other platforms and have it in our emails at the bottom, like go listen to this new playlist this week or whatever it is. That's kind of like the lowest lift that we did before we started, you know, activating more heavily. And I think that's just like an easy way to kind of connect.
Yeah.
Through music. Obviously, it's easy for us because we are a music festival. So like we're sharing music that is like you're gonna see soon. But we've even done like what we're listening to in the office, like stuff like that. Just because, you know, people like to connect with, you know, people behind the scenes as well.
Yeah.
I think for a sports brand, it might be like, oh, does Spotify make sense, right? But I was definitely going to say, like, start off with a branded profile, right? Like, make sure you have everything that's good for your team there. And then start up small. Like, what is your in-venue or in-arena music? Add that. You know, what's your goal song? That's unique to every team, right? Like, and then from there, if you want to dive into ads, like, I'm totally going to say, like, use Tradable Bits. They're awesome. And then use that A/B testing because it really does help. But yeah, I'd say if you're really just starting to dive into it, the playlist would probably make the most sense. Stuff that like you don't need to go ask your players like, hey, what are you listening to? If you don't have that much of easy access to them. But you know, whatever you're playing in game is good enough too, right?
Yeah. I want to assure everyone we didn't pay her for that either.
No, they did not pay me. They were just very helpful.
Hashtag not sponsored.
Exactly. Well, thanks everyone for joining, especially our panelists. It was really, really great to talk to you and to hear some of your insights, especially during this time where everybody is trying to shift what they're doing. Like I said, this webinar has been recorded, so please do opt in to receive that recording if you're interested. Stay safe. Make sure to keep an eye out for our upcoming June webinar because this is a monthly thing and we would love to have you back. All right, thanks everyone.